What's going on, people? Welcome to the Hot Dad Pod. In today's episode, this is one that's been like sitting in our back pockets for a minute. We were just waiting on the Bears to do what they inevitably were. Well, not inevitably, but they ended up doing.
The writing was on the wall by like week 4.
This is I guess, what we're going to go through here is discuss what has happened with Chicago sports, namely the Chicago Cubs and the Chicago Bears. What the fuck happened this year? Or I guess last year.
Yeah.
We're 2020, baby.
Yeah, wow. Happy New Year.
Yes. What the fuck happened? I know in my eyes and in my heart which one was the most disappointing, but they both were a fucking kick to the groin.
Both had championship aspirations and neither made the playoffs.
I think the tougher one was the Cubs just because they literally on paper should have been in the technically World Series, I think, according to Vegas. But they just had a disaster fucking nosedive at the end of the season.
And they were in first place in the NL Central most of the season.
And regardless, they still had a very skittish season, up and down, but that last one was...
It felt like you're on like a flight and like turbulence the whole time. You're just gripping your fucking armrest. And
then ultimately the plane crashed.
Yeah.
And then the Bears, it was a slow stab from game one. And then ultimately, once again, just what the fuck happened. Now, Vegas did have the Bears going, I think, 8-8 or 7-9.
I think the line was at 8 games. I think with that said, Vegas had the Cubs total low too. It wasn't as low. I think Vegas had them like 89 wins, which is about the equivalent as 8 wins.
Yeah.
But it still wins like how many wins did I think 89 wins would have got them in the wild card.
Now, the Bears did have a tough season, or as in they had a tough they had some tough matchups.
Yeah, I think there was like the 5th hardest schedule in the NFL.
But with that being said, it was just
they gave up easy games too to like Oakland, that Philadelphia
game.
They
didn't look good. It's not like they lost in shootouts.
They were fighting against themselves.
Yeah. But let's start with the Cubs first.
Yes.
Because I don't think we'll have the brains to be able to go bouncing back and forth through both. What the fuck happened? Like, what was it? So my personal belief is there's some sort of from just experience playing organized sports in my lifetime and from being at work managing people, when on paper you look amazing but you don't produce, I've always felt like there's a cancer. Now that cancer doesn't mean that there's a negative Nancy out there, but someone that's in there shaking things up for the wrong reasons, maybe allowing things to happen that shouldn't be happening, maybe being a negative Nancy, taking the attention away from what your job is supposed to be doing ultimately is what the cancer is. Do I think that was the reason? I think it was part of it. I think there was definitely a cancer in there, whether the cancer was Joe Madden letting them just be kids and fucking carry on that World Series feels into the next 2 years after that, where they feel like, hey, whatever, we won. I know from just looking at the dugout, and this is I hate doing this because it's what a lot of people did with Jay Cutler, how he seems like he doesn't care. That doesn't mean he doesn't care.
Reading the body language.
Yeah. But when you're losing and your season's on the line and they pan into the dugout and you guys are just fucking around.
Yeah, it's tough not to receive that information negatively.
Yeah, it's like, what the fuck are you guys... Like, I know I'd be upset. I mean, like, we just played 162 games for nothing. We're going home.
I suppose, like, the counterpoint to that is back in 2015, 2016, they were always that loose team that even when they're getting blown out, we're just dicking around, and it worked out for them. And maybe you could argue that's the reason when they're down 3-1 in the World Series, they came out on top. I think, again, just, I guess, playing a armchair psychologist here, it could just be like winning. So back in 2016, they're ultimately nobodies. They really, most of the team were just young bucks, and now they're all somebody, and they all are worried about their advertisements. Not even that. They just all they have big contracts coming up, and then maybe that's in the back of their mind. Ultimately, winning the World Series might have been the cancer, I guess. Maybe that carrot to dangle just isn't there anymore. I don't know. Maybe, yeah. Joe Madden, maybe they started tuning him out. I don't know. I don't like putting it all on the manager, especially in like baseball. It's just such an individualized sport, and there's just such little room for error. And like to be a successful hitter, you're out 7 times out of 10. Like, to be like I guess pitching's harder to quantify, but like one of the big things they took a step back on was their base running and their fielding, for sure. Like that's one, like they were historically gifted defensive team in 2016. I think they're following the metrics. I don't know the damn abbreviations for any of them, but they're like top 5 like runs prevented like all time that season. It was like some stupid number, and they were like bottom 5 in the league last year. They had so many dumb outs on the bases that they weren't making in 2015. They weren't making in 2016, and I don't know if is it a lack of concentration? Is that a thing on Madden? Should the players be held accountable for that? I don't know the answer to that.
I think so. When it comes to defense, if you guys have ever played baseball, and I played to a very competitive, I didn't play pro, but I did play a higher competitive baseball. But from the beginning, the one thing you get taught is always think about what's going to happen. Like if you're fielding, if you're like, let's say playing third base, pretend in your head where the ball's going to go. Like the moment it's pitched, it's going to come to you. What are you going to do with it? This team looked like they didn't know what to do with anything when they were supposed to be acting, whether it was running the bases, whether it was fielding. And fielding is not like, man, I had a bad day fielding. He was throwing some good. No, I understand going 0 for 12 hitting. But fielding a ground ball, there's no excuse.
Effort.
Yeah, it's effort and lack of concentration. Now, why were those two things happening? I don't know.
I suppose maybe when you're slumping, that might bleed into like the lack of concentration.
And it does because you're thinking about it. You're like, fuck, I can't hit the ball, and one does kind of help out the other, but still, I mean, you got to make those catches. You can't have those many errors. You can't leave people on base the way they do, and just the base running mistakes. They're playing as if there wasn't any consequences.
They were never synced at the same time, because if you pull everything back and you look at individual numbers or just individual, I guess I should say team stats, like pitching, hitting, defense, like just the standard numbers, they're not really all that terrible.
No.
They're up there in hitting. They're up there, but even their bullpen seemed like their bullpen blew every game, and maybe that's because those are the games that sit with you the most. But if they're playing defense just fine, then they're serving up bombs. If they were pitching a gem, they weren't scoring runs. Like
right.
They were always doing the opposite.
And on paper, the bullpen looked good. But the problem is, for those that follow the Cubs and we watch every single game, we know that sometimes what's on paper doesn't really translate to, like, I guess, reality in a way, where, sure, the bullpen might have always performed when the Cubs were winning 9-0.
Yeah, exactly. Those empty calories.
They went out there and they just fucking, came out for 3 innings and shut them out. But man, when the game was like the Cubs were winning 3-1, they're gonna lose that game.
But with that said, like when the game was 1-1 going deep in the game, the offense just wasn't there. It seemed they had so many like 9-0 wins and 1-0 losses. It felt like it just,
which was the same as 2007 or 18.
Yep.
They suffered from a lot of the same shit. I just think it was a little more, I want to say, this year, or at least it felt worse because it was like, wow, 2 years in a row with this shit.
Yeah, I mean, this year they just simply won less games this year than they. In 2018, they made the playoffs. They won plenty. I think they won like 92, 93 games. They still were. They were.
Well, teams got better.
Yeah, like, and that's the other problem. Like, that's the weird place we're in now. Is when Theo first took the team over, he was the guy. And now everyone has a guy like him. And, like, maybe they're just better at it than he is now. I don't know. I still have all the faith in Theo. Whenever people try to critique him and everything, I get annoyed with it because he's the guy who built this team, and I'm willing to. He's definitely made mistakes.
Big ones, and a lot of them, unfortunately, I think Madden paid the price for.
Sure.
There's a lot of contracts out there that.
Yeah, Hayward's not living up to it. Even Darvish pitched great last year, the second half of the year, but like
the first year and a half he's been with the team, has been nothing.
If he pitched like he did at the end of last year, the year before, they would have won 100 games.
And Quintana's getting paid a lot to just go out there and
be a 4 or 5 starter.
Yeah.
Even Lester, like Hendricks is probably the most consistent, but Hendricks splits. Like on the road, Hendricks got shelled.
Yeah.
But at home, he was lights out.
Which I'm cool with that because you can control that.
Sure, I guess maybe you at least know what you have with him. Right. But like that's probably the Cubs' ace, and you can't have your ace getting shelled on the road. Like you have to be consistent. Lester, I guess, has been the most consistent, but man, he feels, at least to me, watching him pitch feels like he's about to fall right off the rails.
Yep. And who knows? I mean, some of these people do get hurt, and we don't know about it. Going to the offense, who cares if we had borderline pitching? Our offense should have fucking done enough to beat the fuck out of everyone, and they couldn't hit.
Not when it mattered, at least.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
they were great at 15-0 games.
Like, Rizzo's consistent, and which is why I think he's the only Cub that I feel like if we're going to get rid of people, I want to keep Rizzo because he's the most consistent when it comes with the bat. I'm okay with literally getting rid of everyone. I don't want them to do it just to do it.
Sure, you need something back.
Right.
Use these bargaining chips.
But if we're doing this to rebuild our farm system and start fresh again, just like they did in 2014-15, I'm cool with that. Because, to be honest with you, Bryant really hasn't shown much in the last couple of years. He's had shoulder problems. I believe it's his left shoulder, the one that opens up when he swings. He's late on fastballs that are 90 miles an hour. He then is sometimes early on balls that are 96 miles an hour. He's late on changeups. There's something going on where you can't do that when you're in the plate. If you're getting jammed as a major league hitter with a 91 mile an hour fastball, there's something wrong with you, whether it's your eyes, injury, your timing, which timing usually gets fixed within a couple, at bats. There's something going on, and I was hoping that when he came back from his injury this season, he was going to be okay, lights out Bryant again. It wasn't. He doesn't deserve a big contract. So if we could sell him out, I'm cool with that.
I mean, I'm going to push back on it a little bit. He obviously shown something, but not what we expected. I still think he's their best player, but he's not like we expected him to be a top 5 player, and he's maybe a top 20, top 25 player.
But yeah, I think Rizzo's their best player.
But
defensively and offensively, he's consistent. Which I'd rather have consistency than someone out there that he might go 0 for the next 50, or he might go 20 for the next 20. I don't know.
The only thing with that is I view like the first baseman spot like a running back in football. I feel like there's a lot of great first basemen. Not saying there's a few awesome third basemen, but I guess like the total value at the position I feel is a lot. It's just deeper.
Okay, but then I really don't see Chris Bryant's. He's gotten better on defense.
He's got to be like a 400 on base guy with like 40 home runs a season, 100 RBI. Like that's why you're here. He deserves. Right. I guess we're probably splitting hairs as how we feel about a big contract. He's going to get paid and deserves to get paid, but he's not like getting Trout or Harper money, and that's what everyone's talking about. He's going to get.
Yeah. See, I don't think if you take the first 2 years away, let's say if everything that we know about Chris Bryant is last year and the year before that, does he deserve to get paid?
Well, I still think he's like a top 6, top 7 third base.
I don't. 100% do not. I think he's top 15 to 10, but I don't think he's.
Wow, that's how little you believe. Wow.
Again, ignoring.
Sure, I guess.
Literally the only thing you know about him is this last year and the year before.
I mean, I still think he wasn't that awful. The year before, he would. Yeah. 2018 he was bad, but he was hurt most of the year. Like once you can almost,
which is fine. I mean, I'm not saying.
but he has shown he's shown nagging injuries too. Like that's probably the biggest complaint I have with him. I'm not saying he's soft or he's injury prone,
Right.
but he has been slowed by injuries, and that's a concern.
Right. Here's what I don't want. I don't want Chris Bryant to be our next Derrick Rose. Someone that we know that Derrick Rose could have arguably Derrick Rose had the talent to be one of the best. And unfortunately for him, it sucks. I know it breaks my heart, but it breaks his ACLs. He just couldn't. Physically couldn't. Is Bryant is that a roll of the dice you want to play with him?
So we both are like in the same headspace, but going different directions. I don't want him to be the next Lou Brock, a guy we traded for nothing, who ended up being like an MVP candidate every year. Though, like how much you believe in metrics, like the metrics and sabermetrics is what I'm trying to say, haven't been very pleasant to Lou Brock over his career. But like while he played in his era, he was considered like the best center field at that time.
Listen, it pains me to say this shit about Bryant because I love Bryant. Okay, and I even love the Brizzo thing a whole lot more. Just like I like Kane and Taves.
Yep.
But now looking back, should we have shipped them? Probably, because now the Hawks are ass. You know, we have the opportunity to ship one of them, if not both of them. I say we ship them.
And it seems from like the rumors out there, it's pretty evident Bryant's the one that's going. I just honestly don't believe the Cubs think. So both him and Baez are going to get paid. There's no way around it. And I think they believe Baez is the one to pay. And even, by the way, Contreras, Schwarber, like they're not like, they're going to get paid. They're going to demand salaries that are going to be expensive. They're not going to be the highest paid catcher in the league. They're not going to be the highest paid left fielder in the league or DH, but they're still going to get paid. And these are concerns. I think they believe Baez is the guy to build around, and they can probably get more for Bryant right now too.
No, here's my thing with Baez. Moving over to the next number in the infield. Someone said this, and he said it in a way of playing devil's advocate. He said that a lot of what makes Baez great is his youthfulness. He's not a Gold Glove. Even though
should be.
Even though there are YouTube videos of how amazing this guy can be on the field.
That's what. Anyway.
But he has that Soriano brain, idiot, where he'll grab the most ridiculous ground ball or line drive or whatever, but he will fucking kill you with just the normal routine play, which is why he's not a Gold Glove winner. I don't need someone out there flashy. I need someone out there who's going to fucking get a Gold Glove or at least be top 3 contender for that. I don't want someone that's going to fucking catch it with his teeth and shoot it out of his asshole and be like, I've never seen that happen.
Unless like that particular play calls for it.
Right.
It's nice that you can do that.
Now, going back to what this, I forget who it was who said this. Could have been Jesse Rogers. I don't know. As he gets older, is he going to get worse? I mean, obviously.
Yeah, you're going to age. Yeah, his athleticism is a huge part of his game.
So, because it's a huge part of his game, how much is it going to suffer? Like,
I mean, I still think you have like a good, barring injuries, obviously change everything, but you got at least to have a good 6 to 7 years of like him in his prime.
See, I think it's more closer to like 3, just because, again, also he gets really lucky on base.
See, my bigger fear is like some of his things just feel like luck. Yeah, it just like it takes a weird balance, and he's just the guy that's always at the plate when it happens. Like, what happens when like the luck goes the other way? He's a 240 hitter and things like that.
Right, exactly.
That's awesome that he swings at a pitch that's down and away and gets a base hit off a ball that bounced off the dirt. But how many times they're just going to keep throwing it to you because you're not going to continue success with that.
They call him El Mago because he gets away with shit. Eventually, luck's going to turn the other way around, and you're going to get hosed down, which he did a lot last year. Just stupid base running mistakes because he thinks that El Mago thing shit's going to fucking kick in, and it's like, no, this is real life. This is reality. You're not a fucking Avenger. You're going to get hosed down. Yes, if you do it enough times, are you going to be safe? Yeah. But you're also going to be thrown out all the time.
Who's the right fielder for the Milwaukee Brewers? I forget his name. Big smile, big teeth, giant. He's like the best hitter. Trout's the best player in baseball, but he's like the best player in the. Anyway,
I mean, if I had to keep one of them, I'd keep Baez. Okay, I think Baez could be trained, and maybe as he ages, he gets a little bit more mature, and he starts just honing down on just being a ball player and not having to be this flashy guy. But as of right now, it's, if we could get something good for him, I'm okay with getting rid of him as well.
I guess this is my concern with Baez. I know he's one of the top hitters batting average wise with like being down 0-2.
Yeah.
Which I guess some of what I love about him is he just like, he doesn't shrink in the moment. Like he's just him all the time, which is a great attribute. However, it does feel kind of like dumb luck though. Like the fact that he just goes fuck it and swings out of his shoes when it's down 0-2, I just feel like that's something that's gonna eventually catch up to you. Someone like Christian Yelich, who's down 0-2, like he battles. Like
Rizzo.
Yeah, Rizzo too, but like Yelich is
obviously way better.
Yeah, but you could he's down 0-2 and like he's gonna get out. Like I'm sure his average is probably high 290s or something like that, maybe 270s with an 0-2 count. But he battles and he'll work to a 3-2 count and things like that. He'll put a ball in play, and so will Baez. But it just feels kind of like he closes his eye and swings his bat, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. Going back to Bryant, I felt like he was a terrible 0-2 hitter last year. He was a guaranteed out.
Yeah, that's one spot that feels like he's digressed.
Because here's the thing about the Cubs.
Regressed.
As a whole, as a team, that fucking killed me last year, is they would win against Wainwright and get almost no hit by a fucking AA pitcher.
Yeah.
And I don't understand how that works.
Sometimes it's just baseball's weird like that, but it does feel like
it's all the time. Like I feel like it's all the time. Even like the moment I see who they're going against, and I'm like, this guy has 0 wins, 0 losses. What? I click on him. It's like, oh, he just got called up. We're losing.
Yeah, this guy has a 13 ERA.
Yeah, he's probably excited as fuck. He's like, oh, my major league the debut is going to be amazing. It's so insane to me how a team as a whole could just go without fucking touching the ball.
And they just...
Or beating the fuck out of you. It's one or two.
Yeah, it's crazy. Exactly. They all feel so... It's like they all get on their own cycle at the same time. Yeah. Menstrual cycle.
And here's the other problem I have with their offense is they're always looking for the long ball, except you're not the Yankees. Okay? I understand why the Yankees go for the long ball because they're fucking filled with people who could jack them. The Cubs aren't.
Well, I guess this is them needing to know what they have. When these guys were drafted or traded for, they were supposed to be those guys. Like Addison Russell was supposed to be a plus 25 home run hitter, the plus 300 average. Schwarber is supposed to be a 50 homer guy. Bryant was supposed to be a 40 home run guy. Rizzo's supposed to be a 40 home run guy. Baez supposed to be a 40 home run guy. Only one of those guys, at Contreras, he was supposed to be. Actually, I think he wasn't as highly touted, but he developed into a hitter. There's only one guy. This blows my mind. Only one guy on the team has ever hit 40 home. Actually, did Schwarber hit 40 home runs last year? I don't know. Rizzo's never hit 40. Bryant's never hit 40. Schwarber did hit 40. Baez has never hit 40. They got close, but especially in a day and age where it seems pretty easy to hit home runs. It's the most the ball is clearly fucking juiced, and these guys aren't hitting out of the park like I guess we were kind of promised.
And it's just I can tell you why they're not hitting out of the park because they're taking stupid cuts. Okay, they're swinging for the fences, and I'll tell you right now, as a baseball player, you'll never hit a home run when you're swinging for the fences.
Sorry, Schwarber only hit 38 home runs.
I was gonna say I don't think he hit 40, but.
But he was he was probably their best hitter going to that besides Castellanos. Sorry.
Costanza.
Yeah, that's
Seinfeld.
Sorry. That's who we need to bring in to fix the team.
They're swinging out of their shoes on dumb pitches. They're giving a pitcher an automatic strike by just trying to launch one 600 feet on the first pitch. But then, do you blame the players on this, or do you blame the coaches? I mean, as a coach, I'd be like, listen, if I ever see you fucking swing like that again, I'm benching you until you learn how to fucking go up
I was
there.
gonna say it's probably both of them. I guess eventually it falls on the players, but what are the coaches saying? I don't know.
Like, are they being held? This is one of the biggest points that a lot of people had about Joe Madden and the Cubs in the last couple of years. Are they being held accountable?
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it.
No, it feels like they're just, let the kids be kids kind of thing.
And like so Lovie Smith was very similar in the sense that he never ever like said a bad thing about a player to the media or anything. Like he kept that shit tight in house. And if you hear his former players talk about it, they talk all the time about how like he'd pull you in the office and he'll let you know about it then, but like he never undressed you in front of other players and things like that. He did it all behind the scenes. A lot of players loved it. I don't know if Joe Madden's the same way. I assume he's got a little bit of red ass in him, if you will, but it definitely does feel like I do feel like they need to change just for change, which sucks so much because I love Joe Madden.
And I really don't think that he was ultimately like
the biggest issue.
Yeah. He won a World Series in a franchise that has not seen victory in a long time.
108 years.
He does a lot of good things. And maybe that's the thing with Joe Madden is maybe he's good enough for that one win, but not enough to like bring him back. Like that. He doesn't have enough of a hard ass in him to be like, okay, we're back to sucking again. Let's do what it takes to win.
He
almost like lets them like, hey, you guys did good. We won. Just do you. Just do you. Or sometimes, there's coaches out there that they'll bench the guy from the Braves. He benched
Andrew Jones.
Well,
is that the sort of thing?
there's that. But no, just
recently.
Oh,
what's his face? Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I forget.
Albies. Is that his? Is that
Ozuna? Was it Ozuna?
No, it wasn't Ozuna. It was one of the young guys.
I don't know.
But anyway, like he's all-star for them, and he benched them for I think he was being lazy on the base pass.
I think he was pimping.
So there was accountability. Oh yeah, he was pimping a home run, and it
didn't go. Yeah,
and it didn't go.
It was in the playoffs too, right?
Yeah.
Was it the wild card game?
Yeah.
Because did they win the wild card? Yeah, they had to because the Brewers lost it. Were they in the wild? I don't think they had. Whatever. Yeah, I remember it was.
But he showed them up, and,
Yeah.
and he embarrassed them, and that's how players get held accountable. I just don't feel like there was enough accountability with Joe Madden. I don't think it was that much of his problem this last year. I think it was definitely his problem the year before. I think this year it was just. There's nothing you could do with the pitching staff and when no one's fucking hitting. Like, he can't go out there and hit and throw for you.
It just felt like they were just never on the same page. Isn't it? It's just so wild to me that Joe Madden is no longer the manager of the Chicago Cubs. Like, how many times have we had a conversation, just Cubs fans in general, about like, man, the first fucking manager that wins a World Series, they're going to be a made fucking man in Chicago. And he was gone 3 years later.
Yeah. Actually.
By the way, it's successful 3 years, though. Like, 1 year, he didn't fucking make the playoffs, and he missed it by like a game and a half.
Yeah. So let's talk about that really quick. We're definitely, Chicago fans, and I'm calling out myself on this, we're a little ridiculous.
We became jaded fast.
Yeah. Okay. A lot of us were thinking, let's just win one in our lifetime and be happy with it. And all of a sudden they win once, and now they're pieces of shit for not even winning a second one in a row, let alone they made it into the fucking postseason. We've seen more postseason in the last 5 years
than the previous century.
Yeah. And we're here, they fucking suck. Like, shut the fuck up. And then again, this goes for me too, because we will shit talk the Cubs just like anyone else. But we really need to step back really quick and shut the fuck up, because we are getting the best baseball we've seen collectively, I guess, as a city for fucking decades.
This last decade, the Chicago Cubs had 37 postseason games, 19 postseason wins, which some of that, I believe, I can't remember if 2009 or 2010, Lou Pinella's team snuck in there, which those were 3 losses, if it does count. I'm not even going to look it up. I'm positive that's more postseason appearances and wins they had collectively the previous 100 years. Like, there's just no way around that.
And now we're like, all of a sudden we're like spoiled. Like now the Cubs are going to become the Yankees. Like,
It's the very last episode of The Office. Andy Bernard makes a comment saying, "I wish you knew you were in the good old days when you were in the good old days."
Yeah.
And I already feel like I let like the joy of the world. That World Series run, nothing but heartache for me. It's even when they won, there wasn't like a relief. It was full of so much fear and doubt that when they finally won, it's just like, okay, it's over. And then I didn't appreciate. I remember 2017 is just kind of like skip to the postseason. 2018, let's just skip to the playoffs. 2019, let's just skip to the playoffs. And of course, they didn't make it. But it just all of a sudden felt like it took away the 2015 season by far was the most fun season because it was the season that they arrived, and it probably helped with Arrieta having this historic second half. But it was just, oh shit, we got something. And then 2016, you're like, okay, we're like the top dogs now. So it made the regular season not seem fun. You just wanted to get to the postseason. Let's get to games that matter
instead of just enjoying the ride.
You don't realize how tough it is watching baseball. Sometimes I enjoy when they're just awful, so because I just kind of tune in and out. 162 games is such a grind, and like it's impossible not to watch each game like it's like the last game. I guess they blow a fucking lead in the 7th inning. I'm like, these guys are fucking dog shit, though they're 30 games over 500.
Right.
It's such a grind.
And this year felt like even more of a grind because towards the back half, every game counted. You know, and not to mention that was like their motto. Play like it's like it's October.
Every game's your last game.
Yeah.
Don't win the series, sweep the series.
Spoiler alert, that did not work out. You should have never fucking said something like that. But regardless, I think us as fans, we need to kind of step back a little bit and shut the fuck up and appreciate what we have. That we're gonna probably see the best Cubs.
This is our golden era.
Yeah, for like the next, who knows, maybe 10 years, maybe even like after Epstein leaves. Look at Boston. Like, Boston's kind of kept going the way they've been, and they've always had a contender team. Now, granted, they play in a tough division because you always got to go against the Yankees, but they figured it out even after he left. So we're gonna see some good Cubs teams, whether it's Bryant, whether it's someone else. We're gonna see some quality baseball. Like, let's just try to step back a little bit and enjoy the ride and enjoy watching them play and not expect fucking just them being perfect. The only problem is it's just the way they lose is so fucking just, it makes no sense. Like, I've had this joke every once in a while where it's like teams have been like, here guys, take the win, and the Cubs are like, no, you take it. We don't want it. No, I don't want any part of that. Like, it's almost like they wanted to lose.
It's so crazy because in 2016, I remember just like it didn't matter what the score was, didn't matter what inning it was. Like, you're like, we're in this game. We can be down 5 runs in the bottom of the 9th, 2 outs, and like there is a motherfucking chance. These guys just when they were down 3-1, and like we were at our lowest of low. I remember we were talking about like these guys. The way they played all season, they don't give a fuck, man. They just all of a sudden string together runs and they win games, and
they do what it takes.
Yeah, and that's go. And I guess it felt like they didn't give a fuck in a good way. Like, they didn't let the pressure.
Right.
They didn't let the pressure out exceed the pleasure.
Yeah.
It was a Joe Madden-ism.
I think a big issue this year was how poor the pitching was, and how it was poor, because it wasn't like they gave out like 6 runs throughout 7. No, there were so many outings where they just dropped 6.
There's always just one inning. Like, if you remove that one inning they got shelled, they're like, oh wow, their pitching staff is nasty. But they always had an inning that they just the fucking wheels came off.
And it's so hard to hit when that happens.
Sure.
When you're like winning 2-0 and then Lester gives up a 6-run inning and you're like, well, here we fucking go. And then, or how many times they had to win and the bullpen comes and fucking just, here you go. I guarantee you another part of that cancer, I think there was definitely issues between the offense and like the pitching team. I guarantee you there was a lot of times where we're like, okay, we're up 4-1, and then all of a sudden there's a 5-inning ninth, and then you're like,
yeah,
fuck this guy.
I think it all is like it goes both ways though, because I feel like there's multiple times that they would be up, like they'd be down like 1-0 for 5-6 innings, and like it just felt like that was an insurmountable lead. Like the pitcher had to be perfect because the bats are just not alive today.
Yeah. And then vice versa.
Yeah, it felt like, again, they just were never clicking when it mattered.
Right. And I'll tell you right now, again, from experience, there's no way not to have any ill will against
Sure.
your teammates, especially like the ones that keep going up there and just underperforming, where it's like, fucker, man, like, do you need a 12 spot? Is that what you fucking need from us? I guarantee you that shit like that probably happened when you're around these people all fucking day long, all day, every day for 200 days.
That's going to be a returning theme when we talk about the Bears and defense and offense.
Yeah, same thing. Where it's like, there's no way you don't walk in and you hear your name like this fucking guy. Oh, hey, what's up, man? You ready? There's no way that doesn't happen. That like awkward moment where you're being shit talked, and that it's hard to win like that.
A former Bear and former radio host on 670 The Score, Doug Buffone, he played with like the Butkus era, like back in the 60s with the Bears, and he talked about how sometimes they'd come off the field, the defense would be coming off the field when the offense is coming on, and tell the offense like, hey, try to hold them here.
Wow.
Don't give up any points for us. How about that? Like I'm sure you probably don't get that anymore. But I bet that's how. I mean, I guess I'm bleeding the Bears here, but I'm sure that's sometimes how the hitters felt towards the pitchers and vice versa.
Who was that catcher from the Phillies that made that face?
Oh, I don't know. I can't think of his name when the relief pitcher comes in. And he's just like, Christ.
I guarantee you that face was happening a lot.
Yep.
Awesome
GIF, by the way. Top 5.
Yeah, and then
GIF, sorry.
Like people like Lester who will call you out for making a mistake. Yeah. It's understandable when you're an ace, but when you're pitching like shit, you're like, listen, how about you don't worry about my mistakes and you fucking don't give up 6 runs?
How about get the ball to first base?
Yeah. That's the kind of stuff that's going to rear its ugly head when you're losing the way you're losing.
Sure.
So I think that whole team, in a way, the whole team might be the cancer, just them collectively.
Hey, it feels like a lot of guys need a change of scenery.
Yeah.
Which
sucks because it's like they should... if you just, I hate to compare this shit to Call of Duty, but I was a big fan of, I'm a big fan of professional Call of Duty, and there was this one team by Optic Gaming that they were so fucking good on paper, but they hated each other, and they couldn't win.
Yeah, I mean,
they could not win.
You don't have to like each other, but you certainly can't hate each other.
But I always had this issue where it's like, can you just be a fucking professional? Mm-hmm. And even though you hate each other's guts, you show up there and play. Yes, you can, but you also need a win as a team, and it's really hard to play as a team when you hate each other's guts.
Yeah, it's hard to. Yeah, and I guess winning ultimately is the thing that cures that. You can probably hate each other's guts, but if you're just stringing together wins, it's just good vibes are gonna sneak in. Yeah. But it's hard to get past that wall.
Yeah, and it's. I don't know how you do it. I mean, obviously, changing some people around. Here's the problem with changing people around is you need and this is where I do trust Theo. I trust Theo more in doing these kind of trades versus going out and buying a free agent.
Yeah, it's crazy how much he whiffs on free agent. I wish he would just his New Year's resolution is like no more free agents. He gets like the middle market free agents just right. But like
Castellanos.
yeah, the guys that get, but now like if you want him back, you're gonna have to pay him Hayward money. Is he gonna?
Is he a White Sox now?
No. The rumor is White Sox, Cubs, not the Yankees, maybe Phillies. There's a few teams. Maybe it's the Angels. I know he's rumored with a few teams. The Cubs apparently aren't out of the race yet. But actually, I think they just ruled the White Sox out because they just signed. I forget.
Encarnacion.
Is that who they signed?
Yeah, from the Yankees, the DH.
I don't know if that's the one that. I mean, they've signed multiple players this offseason, but
Yeah.
I think they've kind of spent their load.
Yeah.
They're wad.
I don't know if Encarnacion was that good of a pickup.
Yeah, I don't think he's an awful one. I have no idea what they're paying him.
Yeah.
I think White Sox, I think, are doing a lot of good things for sure. I think they have a good core that they're building around. It's their pitching staff they needed to bolster, and they've done that. And they might have they might go on a little bit of a run here. Ultimately, in a dream scenario, really, I would love to see both teams competitive and find a way to the World Series. That would be awesome.
Like a Subway Series, like the Yankees and Mets.
Obviously, I would hate it if the White Sox win. So that I guess that's the gamble.
Right.
Just fuck the White Sox.
Yeah.
I mean, I really don't feel that strong about it.
But I think I'm okay with getting rid of them if there's something out there worth.
Yeah.
And even if it's like minor leaguers, I'm okay with that. Because they were talking about like handing Schwarber off to the Yankees, and then what I heard the rumor was to bring in, I think, their ace pitching or pitcher
minors,
that they have in the minors,
top prospect in the minors,
and then their third baseman. What's his name? I had it right before Andujar.
There it is.
Which would be awesome because I'll take Andujar right now over Chris Bryant. If we could then, ship Chris Bryant and bring even more prospects in, I think we'll pretty much break even.
And Bryant can also play like left field too.
Or that, yeah.
But he's probably got to go.
At this point, if you're moving stuff around, well, might as well get something for him.
Sure. It seems like, again, from all the rumors, obviously I'm not like in any meetings with Theo. It seems like Bryant is the one being shopped the hardest. The only one that I really haven't heard any rumors around. Again, this doesn't mean anything. It's not like we have our pulse on this team, but is Baez. He's the only name that really. I'm okay. So I'm talking about Contreras, Schwarber, Bryant, Baez, Almora. I'm not. Rizzo isn't in this. I haven't heard anything about him, but I'm just talking about those are the kind of the five guys. I guess Russell would be the sixth one, but they've already not tendered him, so he's no longer a Cub. Which that probably is the most devastating one for me because I really thought he was going to be good.
Yeah, I think he's still good somewhere deep down inside. I think he's just had too much
needs to beat it out of
personal
him.
issues. Kind of, it got to him. I mean, it's really hard to kind of, when you're going through that type of shit, it's really hard to leave that outside of the Wrigley Field doors.
And also, I guess this isn't really, I guess this is about Russell and the rest of them. Ultimately, I guess this sad, scary reality is these guys just aren't as good as we thought they are. They're not bad. They're all professional baseball players. They're not bad at baseball. They're obviously still very good. They're even, I would say, above average at their position. But we thought everyone was like, we thought we had the best third baseman, the best shortstop, the best second baseman, the best left fielder, the best right fielder, the best center field, the best catcher. Like we thought we had top three minimally at each position, and it felt like that in 2016. Most of these guys hadn't even had a full season in baseball, and they won a World Series together. But they just never got better.
Your best hitter in 2018 was Zobrist. Last year, I mean, if it wasn't for his personal issues, he was also hitting because when he came back, he started hitting again. That's if he wants to stay for like chump change, I'll keep Zobrist. I know he's old as fuck. And he's awkward to look at, but he's not looks like your stud player, but I don't care about that. I care about numbers.
That's right. 2017, he was like their worst player. He had a huge drop off in 2000, and then he came back in 2018 with the 300 average. And then last year he was. I mean, when he played he was again, good. Speaking of off-field issues, like life does happen.
Right.
It's not. It's a weird sport too. Like when you have off-field issues, because like there's a lot of standing around
Yes.
collecting your thoughts. While like football, like if you're whatever, he was going through a divorce. If you're going through a divorce as a running back, you're probably just fucking putting your head down and running into someone as hard as you can and taking
I'm
out that.
gonna fucking kill you.
Yeah,
you know?
you can visualize things maybe. Baseball, you're there with your thoughts, and even when you're at the plate, you can be staring at this pitcher, but you're still, it's a second at a time. Everything
Right.
you need a clear mind.
And everyone's different. Everyone handles different situations. Some people, their dad died and they're out there that same day. You know, it's just that's just how it is.
I've always enjoyed, maybe enjoyed's the not proper term, but maybe when things in my personal life aren't going well, I always like going to work because I kept my mind away from it.
Right. And we said this in the other podcast. It gives you a little sense of reward.
Sure.
And you know what? I don't care how many divorces you're going through. If you fucking hit one out of the park and win a game, for that little 2-minute period, you're gonna have a fucking good time.
And with that said, like my job, I don't have the whole world. Not the whole world. I don't have thousands of eyes on me though.
Say millions.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure.
Cubs fans,
Just in the stadium, I guess I was thinking
Yeah.
about. And everyone kind of knows, whether they know the dirty laundry, they know that there's some dirty laundry. And then rumors, like, that's even the crazier, if you want to, not to go too far out there, but whatever happened between him and his wife, I don't really know the whole details.
Really, she wasn't very Christian.
But apparently, though, just apparently, we don't know, just rumors.
Yeah,
like,
she was a dirty one.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, you have to hear about those rumors. I mean, he probably has a better idea what's going on, but it's still
And people reminding you, you walk into the tunnel and fans are like, "Yeah, your wife fucking somebody," It's
and you don't think going on the road, some like St. Louis fans not going to bring it? Fuck yeah!
Yeah,
Like
they're totally gonna say that. It's like, "Hey, I banged her too."
You don't think if your dad died like a week prior that some piece of shit fan isn't yelling that at you?
100%.
Like
100% they will. That's just, I mean,
that's a whole nother pod topic.
Yeah.
Of
But I guess just to kind of wrap up the Cubs, we don't know. It's still early, and we'll probably revisit this podcast once they start making moves.
yeah,
Probably,
certainly spring training is a few weeks away.
yeah,
Several weeks away.
We'll probably do another Chicago, like a Chicago Cubs only.
Like a preview to 2020.
Yeah, and by then we'll probably have kind of seen what the moves have been made.
Have an idea what like even lineups and things like that, starting rotations will shape.
Yeah, now we got a new manager, David Ross.
Grandpa Rossi.
And here's a sad thing somebody mentioned is like, well, enjoy him because at one point he will be fired too.
For sure.
Is he a good pick? I don't know. I do know that he was a bit of a hard ass, even as a team member or teammate, where if somebody was fucking around when the game's on the line and they're losing, he would not be shy of grabbing you and be like, hey, pay attention to the game, cheer on your teammates. You know, he would call you out. So do we need a little bit of that? Sure. I know someone else that they interviewed with Joe Girardi, which I'm a big fan of, but I do think he's a little too much hard ass. It's not the military. Like, let the boys play. I think Aaron Boone is a really good example. Like, he understands it because he probably could still play. He's like that young. But he could also be a hard ass, Same thing with the head coach going to football. What's the guy from the Rams?
Sean McVay.
Yeah, like you can see him in the sidelines sometimes having fun, and but then you also see him letting you have it.
Yeah.
And I think the Cubs definitely need a little bit more of that. Of listen, you're going to be held accountable. If you're not gonna hit, I'm going to find someone that can. And I think he's a fan of small ball. I'm going to actually talk about this for a second. For as many games that the Cubs have lost in the last 2 seasons by 1 run differential, why are we not playing small ball? I get it that it's not baseball. No one wants to see bunts. They want to see bombs. But ultimately, you want to win. Mm-hmm. And I could only imagine, how many of those times could we have just bunted someone the fuck over? Maybe a hit and run here or there, and snuck in that one extra fucking. How many games did we need to make it to the playoffs?
I think this season, is might have been 3 or 4 games where they really took a nosedive the last couple of weeks. The year prior, they literally went to game 163, lost that to get in the wild. Like they were in first place the entire season the year before until game 163 when they lost to the Brewers, and then they got the wild card game and lost. Like if that game, you just snuck in an extra win, you would have skipped that wild card game.
162 games, I don't know how many losses they got. If that one bunt would have just snuck in that one extra fucking run, they would have been in a normal playoff series.
This is where like analytics, I'm a big fan of like sabermetrics. I guess I like to be able to quantify certain things that you visually like you can't. And that's what like sabermetrics kind of allow you to do. Batting average doesn't tell the whole story. However, it's like the macro over the micro. In the macro, bunting doesn't ever make sense. Of course, giving up and out just doesn't make sense. But in the macro, sometimes it does. It's similar to like if you want to talk about going for 2 or kicking the extra point or going for it on 4th down in football. In like the macro, you can probably weigh the numbers, and it probably always makes sense to kick or to go for 2. If you are at 75% with extra points, but you're at like 55% 2 points, then you should always go for 2. However, that doesn't always apply in the micro. So like analytics are great, but they don't always tell the whole story, and that sometimes gets frustrating with me when someone just pulls up their computer or their tablet and reads off these specific numbers. They don't tell you everything all the time.
Right. I'm a big believer in small ball. Don't get me wrong. I love bombs. I love, people hitting. But when your team's not hitting, you need to make sure you are still producing runs. This is where stealing. We don't steal enough. We definitely don't bunt enough. Everyone in your team should be able to bunt. And if they can't bunt, pinch fucking hit for them and bring in a pitcher. But they should be able to just move. The whole idea of baseball offense, get them on, get them over, get them in. Okay? Not get them on. All right, home run derby time.
It's not softball.
Yeah. Okay, so, and all we...
Like beer league softball is what I mean.
And all we're talking about is just one extra run. So many games the Cubs lost because of one fucking run. But statistically, you have a better chance. First of all, you're putting also more pressure on the other team because now pass ball, you got a guy on third base. We're now a sacrifice fly will score him in. You're making them have to. You're creating more scenarios for you. But hopefully, I want to see more accountability. I really don't. I still trust Theo, so I don't. If the Brizzos get split up, it is what it is. It's technically their fucking fault. Here's a way. If you want to stay playing with the Cubs, here's a good way of doing it. Win games. Doing
for sure.
Like underperforming and doing the shit that you guys were doing. This is what happens.
I mean, we discussed the Cubs a lot during the season. This is what you'd say to me often is you talk about how everyone on the team should feel like shit because they're the reason Joe Madden got fired.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
100%.
Not re-signed.
Yeah. That's on them. It's almost like they weren't being held accountable for the whole season until now. Mm-hmm. And now it's like, well, now this is a business, and now this is what's going to happen. You might not like it. We might not like it, but it is what it is. So I do trust in Theo. I do hope that the moves he does make, I do believe the moves he does make, if he makes them, because here's the other thing, it might be just the same team again.
I think there's a good chance. I really feel like they're going to take a step back this year to kind of do a soft reset. I don't know if if they contend, I don't know if it's by plan. Maybe the players just get their shit together, but I really think he's going to do a sort of, I don't want to say a rebuild, but like a reset. There's going to be some parts shipped out for, maybe they're going to look for more, I guess, closer major league ready players than they did back in like 2013, 2014. But yeah, I think guys like probably Schwarber and Bryant aren't going to be on this team next year.
I don't think they will either. But again, I also wouldn't be surprised if it's literally the same team going out there again. Because who knows? Maybe it was Madden.
I think those are the only two options. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, and Theo's always said this, everyone
is replaceable.
Mm-hmm. Only if he sees any type of value. If he doesn't see any value, then we're going to see the same team again. Which, in a way, I almost would want to see that, because you're gonna have some more cap room next season. And then you could maybe keep some. Listen, I don't know. I would love for them to stay the same way, just like I did with the Blackhawks. I would have loved for everyone to stay with the team, and most of them did. And look where they're at now.
I think there's an argument to be made that they can keep the same core, I guess, everyday players, but something has to be done with the starting staff. There's just one, Hamels is already gone.
Yeah, which I can't believe they signed him for that much money.
Yeah,
are you crazy?
But
he was good for like 12 games, and then he got hurt, and then now he's on your team.
I mean, it really hinges on Darvish's production, especially with that contract. But with that said, the money that's been shelled out this offseason, his contract all of a sudden he's like getting paid like a number 3 now, when 2 years ago he was supposed to be an ace. But we need him to pitch closer to that ace status. Lester, again, his contract is probably at this point, he's probably making more money than he's bringing back, but whatever. It was always worth it. He got a World Series out of it. So
I still trust him if we were to go to the playoffs. I think it's a different luster when he's in like postseason play. But I do also think that he looks like Peyton Manning that last year.
I'd still feel confident with him as a 4 or 5. The problem is I feel like Quintana is like a 4 or 5, and I feel like Hendricks and Darvish are like a 2 or 3. Like, where are the top of the end rotation guys? I don't know. I assume they're waiting on the back end of a Chris Bryant trade.
Yeah. So we'll revisit it again once spring training gets here and we get more information on
typically like the end of February, early
March.
March.
February, the pitchers and catchers come in, and then March, everyone else. So probably around late February. I'm going to guess that by then we'll get more information. Moving on to foosball. Holy fuck.
Feetball is what I call it.
God damn, what a fucking season. I'm actually surprised they won 8 games.
Yeah, I guess if we have to talk about which team is more disappointing, I suppose I'm going to say the Bears, because I feel like their drop-off was significantly. We went from Executive of the Year, Coach of the Year, possible Super Bowl aspirations to like everyone's like, everyone must go.
Yeah.
Fire Pace, fire Nagy, trade Trubisky, Khalil Mack's garbage. So like,
what do you think? There's more of a knee-jerk reaction when it comes to football or baseball?
Oh, football all day.
Yeah.
I mean, there's way more eyes on football. Football's proven that you can turn it around quicker too. Like football,
right? Because I mean, if you have 3 studs in a baseball team, that might not mean anything.
Exactly, and baseball, I guess there just doesn't feel like there's a pressure there. Maybe it's 162 games compared to 16 games. Maybe it's just the fact that all the money from gambling is tied into football and everyone watches it. Fantasy football probably has more to do with it. There's just a lot more pressure put on in football.
I mean, you lose 5 games in certain divisions in football, and that's it. You're not making it anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're in the NFC East.
Yeah.
Then you could be a high school team.
Yeah, exactly. I actually was thinking the other day, I'm like, if Bears were in the NFC East, they probably go 10-6. I know Philadelphia beat them, but they beat Dallas still, and Washington, and
well, Dallas doesn't make sense who they win and lose to.
No, yeah, who was it? You that said it the other day? Actually, a buddy of ours said it. Dallas is a good example of like pick on someone your own size. Like they will beat the fuck out of someone that they outmatch, but the second someone even slightly matches up to them, they're just dog shit. But obviously the elephant in the room is Trubisky. It really is. I don't think Nagy called a very competent game for him often. I think he wanted Trubisky to be a player that he just isn't. And I believe, I wouldn't bet money on it, I believe there in a alternate universe there's still a chance that Mitchell Trubisky can be a competent and even a top 10 quarterback in the NFL given the right circumstances. I wouldn't bet money on it. There are a few cases throughout the NFL, throughout every sport, that guys have looked overmatched their first few seasons and somehow figured it out. They usually go to another team when they do that.
By the way, I want to apologize really quick if I'll cough every once in a while. I'm battling a cold, and now it's doing a post nasal drip. Right, it's just tickling the back of my throat, and it comes out. Obviously, talking doesn't help. And
I think I actually have a bigger issue with your random erections.
yeah, well, they bumped the table up.
Yeah, it startles me.
I'm torn because I really want to put most of the blame on Nagy. I don't think Trubisky's good by any means, but I really do think that as a head coach, you have to support what you have, and you have to know what you have. Mm-hmm. And I don't think Nagy, especially at the beginning of the season, was fucking calling a good game. I don't think he was supporting Trubisky. I don't think he was setting him up for success. I mean, everybody knew what the Bears were doing. There were, I forget who it was. It was a defender. I'm not going to know who it was.
The Green Bay Packers, are you saying, who said all you have to do is make Trubisky play quarterback?
No, okay, so there was
that. That's Tramon Williams.
But there was also someone said that just play the front, like just don't go past the 5-yard line. Mm-hmm. And because they were talking about, man, aside from Trubisky, it doesn't look like the Bears receivers are at all ever even close to wide open. Like they always look like they're being hovered by someone. And that's because every team knew they're not going to go deep. Just kind of like stuff the front 5, as in 5 yards. And that's all they know. That's all they have in their playbook. It's either a stupid run or a 5-yard pass.
Yeah, basically, Mike Pettin, the Green Bay Packers defensive coordinator, put out the blueprint. The first game of the NFL season is the opener at Chicago for the centennial season of the NFL. And he basically, he did that. He dropped 2 safeties back just in case there's anything got over the top. And then, they covered everything the first 5 yards because that's all the Bears do is they throw these dumb screens and shit. And they made plays on the balls because Trubisky can't hit open receivers down the field or even identify open receivers down the field.
What I would have done if I was Nagy, and again, this kind of, it goes against what I just said about supporting your quarterback, is unleash him. Put plays out there that aren't just dump 5-yard plays, just anything, and let him prove himself. And then if he sucks, then fuck him. Then he sucks. But I don't think, in a weird way, to me, I think that's supporting him because you're allowing him to be able to put his career out there and like, this is me, versus sheltering him, and ultimately that's not working. But then he also looks like a piece of shit as well. So it's like, it's a lose-lose with what you're doing. At least by unleashing him, he does have a chance of proving himself. And he has made some big boy throws. Mm-hmm. Last year, he made some fucking big boy throws. But I don't know. Like, it's such a fucking conundrum because you could say I'm equally pissed off with both of them. But I would just have maybe loved seeing more opportunities for Mitch to just fucking chuck it more. You know what? I'm okay with picks. You want to go out there and just heave 4 picks, by all means, because then that's on him. Now we know what we fucking got. But this whole like 5-yard shit or these stupid like what's it called, RPOs? Mm-hmm. How many fucking RPOs do we have to see getting stuffed at the line? Like how many times do you have to run the same fucking thing?
I think I guess maybe some of the reason I give Nagy a bit of a pass is he is also kind of new at this whole head coaching gig. But what I don't like about him is, it feels like he falls in love with plays instead of designing plays around his players. And so RPOs are great and everything. I mean, Patrick Mahomes makes them look real easy. He's also a generational talent that the Bears could have had. But as dumb as it sounds, as fucking Chicago meathead as it sounds, is they just probably simply should have ran the ball more and had like intelligent runs, not this fucking sweeps to the left and right and just running to the sidelines. Like, I don't think the Bears' offensive line is as terrible as they seemed this year. I think they're average at best. It hurt a lot not having Kyle Long is an all-pro level talent that just has not been healthy the past few seasons, and it's shown. I think inside between Kyle Long, Cody Whitehair, and James Daniels, they have like a nice, strong interior core. Kyle Long was hurt. James Daniels is still I think he just turned 21 this year. Like he's a really young second year player. But Charles Leno and Bobby Massey, I mean, Charles Leno did feel like he took a huge step back this year, but I just don't know if he's being put in. They're not accentuating his strengths. Same thing with Bobby Massey. They're guys that I think they're average linemen that I'm telling you right now, if Aaron Rodgers was their quarterback, they would be possible all pros because he gets rid of that fucking ball and he identifies open receivers. So they're not, I guess the microscope isn't on them as hard. Is it because the plays Nagy is calling? I do understand some of the plays Nagy calls because he doesn't trust in Trubisky, but I think the easiest way to take pressure off Trubisky is just as dumb and I guess
just ground and pound.
Exactly, as old school as it sounds.
But you can't do it with like Cohen. You can't go right down the gut with him.
It's run the I form. Get a fullback in there. Whatever. Add another tight end. Put in another lineman as your second tight end, if you will, and just push the other team back and get 3 yards and a yard. 3 yards and a cloud of dust is the saying. And then like those play action and QB boots, and you get Mitch on the run. That's when he starts picking teams apart. And
right.
I know they beat it in Trubisky's head. The only way you're going to succeed in this league is if you can sit in that pocket and throw. I'm sure, and that's what teams have asked him to do. They ask him to stay in the pocket. They would, a lot of times they would have these QB shells, and they would not let him get outside the pocket and use his feet, even if he wanted to. He's not Lamar Jackson. He's not going to, like, you can fucking QB spy Lamar Jackson all you want. It's not going to stop him. The only way you can hope to stop him is if you rip his leg off. Trubisky isn't that level of an athlete, but he's still great with his feet. And if he were able to sit in the pocket and make some throws, then his feet open up because all of a sudden they're like, okay, we can't keep pushing up this line. We can't keep guarding this screen. If he could just make a 15-yard throw to a wide open receiver, they would have to respect that. But he doesn't. I guess the frustrating thing about it is he doesn't even identify the receiver open 15 yards down the field. He clearly is not picking up this offense as quickly as he should. And you can argue that a 3-year player should be picking it up quicker. It concerns me that he's not. I guess that's the one thing that gives me a little glimmer of hope that he can turn things around is maybe it all of a sudden just clicks and he starts reading defenses. He starts seeing the open receiver. I listen to the radio a lot. They mock him when they say he needs to work on his footwork and everything will be fixed. It's kind of true. If you watch his dumb throws, it's all in the footwork. By footwork, they mean if he stays in the fucking pocket, if he climbs the pocket and makes a throw, too much backpedaling. He doesn't have Mahomes' arm that he can just flick his wrist and make a 30-yard throw. Every once in a while he does, but most of the time he doesn't. He needs to stay in the pocket, read the defense, and make the throw. I don't know if he can.
I love analogies, so I'm going to hit you with this one. McGregor lost to Mayweather in boxing.
Mm-hmm.
If they were to go to the UFC, who would win?
McGregor.
And why is that?
Because it's in his territory. He's a trained MMA fighter. He's not a trained boxer.
Well, there's that, but what my analogy was kind of hinting at is because now you could also be kicked in the fucking mouth.
Sure, and you
could be taken down.
Exactly, yeah.
There's other tools. So now can McGregor knock out Mayweather with a left? Sure, because now Mayweather has to pay attention to his feet, to the groundwork. There's other things where it's going to open up for McGregor to land a left. I think the problem with Trubisky a lot is what you said at the beginning. It's just there's no run game at all.
There's little effort put into the run game, and maybe Nagy maybe the offensive line isn't that great, and maybe he understands.
But some of the run plays,
that's what
an I formation. Cohen is a small back. What makes him dangerous is that first block. Mm-hmm. And then he's tiny. You can even see him go like this, like playing peekaboo, because you can't fucking see him. And then he's quick and fast enough to just sneak in and then make a cut, and then he's open.
And I think he also I think David Montgomery is a good back, but he also is more of an elusive back. He can run a guy over here or there, but it's not like Jordan Howard was a bruiser. Like, you had to, like, okay, you realize that it's going to hurt bringing him down. And it helps a guy like Cohen knowing that, like, this guy's beating the fuck out of the defense. And all of a sudden you get this little shifty fuck going around.
Cohen is not going to go, like, without a blocker. It just nose deep into the line and just fucking lay someone out. That's not going to happen. It's impossible. It's physically impossible.
He's a change of direction guy.
Right.
Change of pace guy.
Like a Westbrook in a way. You know, it's just small back, quick, elusive. And then, again, you block for him. He makes that one cut and he's open. At least enough to maybe get 3 yards and 2 yards and 4 yards. And then all of a sudden Trubisky now has a little bit more time. And maybe defense is looking at the run a little bit more. But when the running game's not there and you're putting everything on Trubisky to win a game on 5-yard passes, it's not going to fucking happen. Like,
and they just don't really have Allen Robinson is a top 10 wide receiver in the center. One of the saddest things is he's had Blake Bortles and Mitch Trubisky throw him a football his entire career. And I think a lot of people don't know who he is. He is a great wide receiver, but he's not like a burner. He's not like a guy that really makes a lot of plays after the ball, like after he has the ball. He's a guy who makes plays when the ball is in the air. He's a guy who he's a big body that can get, that's just an easy target. He runs crisp routes. He has strong hands, and his footwork, some of his sideline catches are just beautiful. But he's not a guy that you throw a screen to and makes a couple moves. Cohen, yeah, sort of is. Anthony Miller, yeah, I guess. But he's shown that his decision-making is a little questionable. Taylor Gabriel is a guy that can't stay healthy. Their other two receivers, Riley Ridley and Javon Wims, are also big bodies that they're big targets, but they're not guys that make plays with the ball in their hand. And these screen passes are designed for guys who make plays in open space. Like, that's what Tyreek Hill's great at that. Kansas City, great idea. Their entire fucking receiving core runs like a fucking 3.840. Like, they're lightning quick.
And screens aren't going to work when everyone knows that whatever's happening is going to be 5 yards away.
You got to take the top off the defense. Otherwise, screens work great when you're afraid that Allen Robinson's going to go deep.
Right. We also didn't have a single fucking tight end worth of shit.
The grossest stat I heard the other day is not one receiver. The Bears' their leading tight end, Trey Burton.
What a bust.
Had 84 yards receiving all season. He was their leading receiver for tight ends. Not one tight end accounted for 100 yards on the entire season. That's just with an offense, by the way, that's designed around the tight end. Like Kansas City, they have Travis Kelce. Philadelphia, they have Zach Ertz. These are they're the only tight end probably better than them in the NFL is the Niners tight end. Kittle. Like, which, by the way, the Bears took Adam Shaheen in the second round, and Kittle fell to the fourth round in the same draft. Just as much as people bitch about Trubisky over Mahomes, I think that's even more egregious. And think how gross it'd be with a tight end like that who not only beats the fuck out of the other team.
He's a psychopath.
This
guy's he's not all there. This guy's a psychopath.
He'll beat on the run game. He just beats the fuck out of you, and then the pass game, he's wide open all the time. He is overall the best tight end in the NFL, and it's not even close.
He reminds me of another psychopath. Who was tight end for the Giants?
Jeremy Shockey.
I was gonna say Stokely. That's
yeah.
not this.
Yeah, it's a good. That's actually a great analogy because as great as like everyone wants to go to Gronk right away, I still don't think Gronk was as great in the run game as people. I think he could have been better, but he's bigger than Kittle too. Kittle just fucking pancakes motherfuckers. Yeah. He'll be a play action. He'll pancake a linebacker and then be wide open down the field. Like he really is. He is the best player at his position, and it's not even close, really.
He's like the definition of like, you might know karate, but I know crazy, and it doesn't matter how much talent you have. He just has that crazy strength, like that. Just I'm gonna fucking he has that light switch where like he flicks it, and he might not look like a bodybuilder, but he'll flip a fucking car over his head.
He's the dude from The Replacements who... I
just see red.
Does John Favreau play
that? That is John
Favreau.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. Bring it back to the last pod, but yeah. He's like, I just see red, coach, and I'm going to get him.
It's just so hard for me. Yeah. You can make the argument that maybe that's what the Patriots are suffering with this year is a lack of a tight end.
I mean, they went from having...
one of the greatest to nothing.
Yeah, no, it can't help. And to bring it back to the Bears, this offense is schemed around the tight end. It really, the number one target is usually the tight end, and they don't have that at all.
I think what annoyed a lot of people too, it was like game to game, it felt like there was no improvement and nothing was changing. At least at the beginning, like the first half, and that's where my problems with Nagy come down. It's like there wasn't any like, okay, I see you're trying this. No. And matter of fact, when he did run the ball more, it was like to shut us up, where it's like, you're doing it for the wrong reasons.
It kind of finally was like, fuck it, man. This is what you guys want. Here you go. And then which makes it worse because as it becomes successful, it's like, oh, maybe you guys were right about that.
Well, I remember telling you at the beginning of the season, like, what I like about the run game is it's kind of like in baseball, you got to put the ball in play. Make the defense work. Mm-hmm. When you run the ball, you're making the defense have to make the play. And you run it enough, you start beating them in the mouth with it, you're going to eventually find a hole. And all it takes is one good hole to get the fucking momentum going.
And it keeps your defense off the
fucking field.
I know their defense is great. And I know everyone probably wants to talk about how their defense wasn't as good as they were last year. I actually adamantly disagree with that. I think there's a couple injuries. And they also were playing with leads last year. It's so much different when you can just pin your ears back, go get the quarterback. The ball, like now when you're forcing the other team to throw the ball, that's when turnovers happen.
Yeah.
The defense, and that's really the difference between the defense this year is they didn't get the turnovers, but it goes back to like you talk about the Cubs not hitting or the pitching, like you're pressing at the plate because you think the pitchers are going to serve up a bomb. You don't think the defense is not like pressing, knowing that like, oh well, let's get this 3 and out so we can come back out here in 2 more minutes because they just got a 3 and out. Like we have to score on defense right now in order to get any points. We got to get the ball on the other side of the 50 for the offense because they can't do it.
Right. Now, we kind of hinted at this at the beginning when we were talking about the Cubs and how maybe there was internal issues. It's probably safe to assume that there were internal issues between the defensive team and the offensive team.
Yeah, I think that it's got to be human. It's got to be human nature. When someone's failing so bad on the other side and like not holding up their end of the bargain, it's hard not to.
Especially if you're like as good as Khalil Mack, like, do you think he was motivated to go out there and be like, oh, this fucking piece of shit? Like, I should be in a different team. Like, what the fuck did I? Yeah.
And this is why I actually firmly support Matt Nagy. Is it didn't really feel like he ever lost the locker room, and it felt like he should have. Like this team felt like they should have gave up a while ago.
I used to joke around, I still do, about Nagy, and actually all their fucking press conferences just fucking annoy the shit out of me. But Nagy always like, we're always positive, and we're like, we're still doing the good things. We all believe in the good things, and blah blah blah. Shut the fuck up, like, but. In a weird way, it did work because I agree. Like the way this team looked, it looked like they should have all hated each other at the end of the season. But they do need a little PR help because like Trubisky's also terrible on the mic. I remember the one where I wanted to fucking punch him through the radio. He was like, oh, I don't understand how I didn't make that pass. I was making it all day in practice. I'm like, shut the fuck up. It's like a baseball player saying, yeah, I don't know why I went 0 for 4 in BP. I was launching them. Like,
yeah, I mean, I don't get as worked up about it, especially, and that actually, we might get to it, is how much like people are over dissecting the Bears end of the season press conference. Football people don't give away. They just lie. They lie. And I guess that's one thing. Nagy always felt like he was forthright last year, but it's real easy to be forthright when you're 12-4.
Right.
Like when you're winning, how did you make Trubisky threw 3 touchdowns? How'd you make that happen?
Because he's the fucking greatest. That's why it's so easy to be transparent when you are winning.
Mm-hmm. It's tougher when you're losing. Especially when like you might be a big reason to like it's one thing. Theo Epstein has always been transparent. During like he's just like different. He's different from the rest of them. He's always been transparent, and he's always been upfront about his failures. But also he's got like some skin in the game. When you have like the rings that he's helped produce, it's easy to like, yeah, I fucked up this year. This is on me. This is on me. you can say that all day long because, by the way, that championship sitting in your office is because of me.
Right.
So, I guess, I don't know what it was like with Theo Epstein near the beginning. I'm talking about like in Boston, but I know he won relatively fast. I think it's the second year they won the championship. So I don't know if he's ever been in a situation that he's already had like the clout.
Right. Going back to Nagy and like going back to just how some of the play calls that he would make or decisions that he would make. One that stands out a lot for me is when Pinheiro missed the field goal. And then
he didn't kick the field goal, and then he went back to the field goal.
Right. Like, he should have had him kick the second field goal. You clearly
That's
told
when you
him,
give up on him.
You're like, I don't trust you.
Yep.
But then the third time around, you're like,
oh,
fuck
shit,
it.
I don't trust my offense either. We
Yeah,
need you again.
yeah.
Like, that's right, because also, to add more context to it, that second field goal is like a 4th and 7. The third field goal is like a 4th and 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a frustrating.
You know, it's like those type of things is what I had a big issue with. Also with Nagy, he just made some calls where I'm like, what?
What one play that like sticks in my head is this last game against the Vikings.
Fourth and
not it was it this last game? I'm pretty sure it was.
I know there was like that 4th and 20 something or like 15, and they just did like a 5-yard pass.
Okay, I forgot about it. That one I was actually had a bigger issue with Trubisky, but then after seeing like the play that was called, I had a bigger issue with Nagy. But yeah, okay, I forgot about that one. They were running the ball, they were driving the ball down the field on their first drive. Like, they had a good 6-play drive. They just kept moving the ball 5 yards here, 6 yards here, 10 yards here, and then he decides to call this fucking ridiculous like double reverse that got stopped for like a 6 or 7 yard loss. So now we're at like 2nd and 17. And they just had a nice rhythm going, and he's just like, God damn it, I gotta have one of these fucking ridiculous. Like, he just can't help himself. He's like a fucking kid playing with toys or something like that. Like, sometimes just keep it simple. The most obvious thing might be just you're running the ball down their throat. You know what's got to be really demoralizing, like just as a human being, as a man on the football field, if you know they're running the ball and they just keep fucking pounding it down your throat, like, we literally can't stop this. They're going to run it directly at me, and these other human beings are going to remove me from the area so this human being can run the ball. Like, that's got to be the most demoralizing thing ever. But instead they're like, let's do this dumb reverse and or not block it correctly. And
yeah, like these little trick plays don't work when you don't have an offense.
Yep.
Like, it works good with the Patriots. I feel like every time they have a trick play, that shit's fucking gold.
Because they don't have an offense built around trick plays.
Right.
They sprinkle the trick plays in here or there.
Right.
And like they have like the
trick play. It's
Bill Belichick's the greatest fucking coach of all time too.
But it's just it was frustrating. I kept waiting for them to turn it around, and they never did. I think that was like the frustrating part. It's like they have the tools. I guess you could say they have the tools, but it just didn't deliver. And it obviously doesn't help that it was our only, as a Chicago fan. If you're a Cubs fan, when the Cubs ended up being eliminated, we were like, well, at least we got the Bears.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, was that like instant. Like, that low point that we had with the Cubs, it never came back up. It just kind of kept going.
I always thought going into the season, I'm like, wow, they like, one, if Trubisky takes the next step, like maybe because we knew at the end of last season, like, okay, this he's not that. He hasn't shown enough to be like a transcendent talent, but
he's shown glimpses of it.
Yes, he like I definitely never thought. I thought like the floor for him was like a competent like 15 to 20 quarterback, like overall, with like the upside of being like top 5, top 10. I did not think he was going to be like a bottom 5 guy. I thought at the very least he was going to just be like a solid, sure hand, like make the right decisions, a guy that's not going to lose the game for you, might not win the game for you. I suppose he's somewhat like that, but he just, because he doesn't really give the ball away, but he just doesn't do
Because-
anything with the ball.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't think he'll ever throw a lot of picks because he just doesn't throw that much.
Yeah,
And
he
when
just
he does,
holds on to it and steps out of bounds.
yeah, and it's not accurate. So like it's a good thing about his, I guess, lack of accuracy, if you will, is that he usually throws it where no one's there.
Yeah, and I don't know if like that. I don't know if that's part of it. He just doesn't trust that. He just lets it rip, and he's just throwing it away. I just
Which I think he needs to like just let it rip.
I agree. And there's been a few times he's just made some throws that you're like, I don't know, like I've never seen a guy have so many drop picks too. Like easy picks. And I don't know if the defender's just like, oh my God, did he just throw that to me? Like he's had a few picks that just should have been like taken to the house.
Speaking of drops, didn't the Bears lead the NFL in most drops by receivers?
I know they're in like the top 5. I actually think Philadelphia Eagles won that category. I know they were like both going back and forth with each other.
But that's another thing where it's like, okay, it's not going to help Trubisky look good if then when he finally makes throws, you're not catching him.
And some of those drops do go against him too, because there is such thing as like a lot of his balls like dive. Like there's been a lot of times that like a guy. How many times have you seen Allen Robinson open down the middle and he has to like catch a ball at his knees? Like,
well, because
he's making the safe throw.
Yeah, he's never hitting you in stride because he's afraid of throwing it over your head. But again, all that comes down to, in my opinion, is because he doesn't do it enough. I think if he did it enough, sure, is he going to overthrow some people? Yes. Is he going to throw some picks? Probably. But eventually, I hope, by letting him loose and just letting him fucking let it rip, he's going to eventually kind of find that groove,
Would the Bears be a playoff team with Jameson Winston throwing 5,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 30 picks? Like, with their defense, I guess it all depends because Jameson Winston, I just actually heard the other day, I didn't realize this, his very first pass he ever threw was a pick six, and the last pass of the season was a pick six. I don't know if you saw the way that game ended, but it was so awesome. I kind of want him to go to another team, so like his career as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer starts off with pick six and ends with a pick six. I digress, though.
I mean, you can make an argument that if they would have had different quarterbacks, would they have been able to sneak in a couple extra wins?
For sure. I think if they had like Andy Dalton, I think he's a competent quarterback. He's a guy
in a shit team.
You know what I mean? If you ask him to win a game, he's not a guy that's gonna thrive with garbage around him. Right. He needs. Everyone remember like when Case Keenum was killing it with the Vikings. Even like Kirk Cousins, I think, is the best example of a guy who needs everything to be perfect. And when they are, he's like lights out. But the second something goes south, he's garbage. But I think he's also that's not a good example. I just think Andy Dalton's a guy who just can manage a game, and if you're not asking him to win the game, he'll get you that 300 yards or just dinking and dunking it, and like maybe a touchdown here, and like he won't throw that pick. But if you start asking him to win the game, he's gonna break your heart.
Yeah. Look at Tannehill.
Yeah. Tannehill's. I don't know why everyone thought Tannehill is so garbage. I never got like he was on a terrible team. I thought his number. If you go back and look at his numbers, you're like, wow, Tannehill was like decent. But he's a guy that needs like a lot of good things going around him, like a good run game.
Yeah.
Like that is like the number one way to hide a bad quarterback is run the ball well. And it's easier said than done. But I think and Tannehill's a guy who can make those open throws, and he's still an athletic guy who will get out there. He's smart with his feet, similar to like Aaron Rodgers, that like if it's 1st and 10 and nothing's there, he'll go get those 2 or 3 yards to just move the ball forward. Or if it's 3rd and 4th and everyone drops back and he's got a chance to get that first down with his feet, he'll just go fucking get it. He's not going to Lamar Jackson your ass and get a 60-yard touchdown, but he'll get the first down with his feet because he's just athletic enough to do that.
Now let's get crazy for a second. Let's get fucking really crazy.
You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts.
Let's get nuts. If they would have re-signed Cutler, would he have taken? Would he have taken the Bears to the playoffs?
2000. I see. That's the thing. I don't know if like
he's like last game?
He's like 37 now.
Yeah, but it was like so he played 2 years ago.
He played with the Dolphins, and he was by the way put up like the exact same numbers as Tannehill that year. But
it's the Dolphins fucking are trash.
Yeah. I think he would fit very well in the scheme, and he can. I was watching, so
He still has a hose.
I've seen like some highlights of him over the past few weeks on Twitter. Like, oh, this game, like Cutler could make some. His biggest issue was just like,
Fuck it.
yeah, too much trust in his arm.
Yeah.
But like, by the way, like especially like if they had Jay Cutler last year, they would have won the Super Bowl. I firmly believe that. Like Matt Nagy schemes so many receivers. Like before the league kind of caught up with Nagy and what Trubisky was doing, like their receivers got open a lot. That Tampa Bay game when Trubisky threw 6 touchdowns, fucking Cutler would have had 9. Like they were slaughtering that team. But Trubisky or Cutler was always like playing within himself. That's why he was at his best with Adam Gase, because he kind of like he didn't force things. He just played within himself and played a competent quarterback. If he that first year with Adam Gase and John Fox, if you could take that Jay Cutler and plug it into this offense, I mean they would have been in the playoffs. Yeah, ultimately their biggest issue was like they didn't just have like a mediocre quarterback. They had like a bottom 3 quarterback in the league. But was Nagy part of the fault? Like, was he not doing enough to play around his quarterback's issues? Like I said, like earlier, I was talking about the only way for him to thrive in this league is to stay in that pocket and pass the ball. Well, you're wrong. At this current stage of Mitch Trubisky, maybe in the long run, who knows? Maybe like a year from now, we're like, oh, he was right. It just took us a while to get to this point. I think it's a very unlikely scenario, but maybe it happens. But he needs to use his feet, and he there's been too many times he could have just got a couple extra yards. He just fucking didn't.
Especially at the beginning of the season. Like towards the end, he started kind of being a little bit more mobile. But at the beginning, he was just like, I can't cross
with
that
a
line.
team that it seems like it's just been so hard to get 3 yards at a time. Think of how many times he could have just got a few extra yards just falling forward.
Yeah. Well, what do you think is the move now? Like, do you think, I mean, I'm a big believer that you bring in another quarterback, you sign a free agent. I mean, I doubt they could do anything in a draft.
I mean, the move is if Alex Smith's leg still works, get Alex Smith. If that doesn't work, bring in like an Andy Dalton, a Marcus Mariota.
Yeah, I was thinking Mariota.
So my top 3 choices would be Dalton, Mariota, Derek Carr might be available too. So I guess dark horse could be Jameson Winston, but he wants to get paid. I mean, Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, look at his numbers. You remove his picks, and his numbers are ridiculous. But he'll get.
There's a lot of picks to remove.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Still, 5,100 yards and 30 touchdowns. Still, you can't take those away either.
I mean, I guarantee.
There's going to be a guy who thinks there's going to be a team that thinks they can coach him out of those picks.
If you got a dude that could throw the ball 70 yards deep, like his arm strength. And you just have him out there just chucking shit. I'm sure he'll get some TDs too.
I'm just saying, like, there's someone out there that is gonna think they can eliminate those interceptions. There's always a coach out there that thinks if I could just hone him in.
Yeah, man. GG's.
But Teddy Bridgewater is probably high on that list, but he's probably gonna get paid too. I think he's a guy who's gonna be like Nick Foles, who's gonna get overpaid and end up being kind of a dud. I think he's perfect where he's at, and I would take him as a starting quarterback, but I bet you he demands like $20 million a year, whatever Nick Foles got paid.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's worth $20 million a year. I think he's just. I mean,
I think 8 to 10 a year with like incentives.
He had a great team around him, a fucking stupid team around him, with a lot of offensive weapons.
Are we talking about Foles or Bridgewater?
Bridgewater, and a lot of run game.
Yeah, I think he's a smart, competent quarterback that will make the right throws. I think
a very smart, competent coach.
Yeah, he's the type of guy. It might be the similar thing with like Trubisky. He's a guy that doesn't usually force the ball, but maybe if he can just simply read the defense faster, because we've all seen the pictures of Trubisky missing open guys. However, I think if you did that with every quarterback, every game, every guy would have that on their resume. He just has a lot of them.
You could tell Trubisky. So, he
just looks scared.
I don't want to compare these two because it's like when people say, "Well, Peyton Manning," when you see Drew Brees hike the ball and you see his little helmet, that shit's
and his
like
head go up.
It's like this. Trubisky's like, oh god, like he like literally looks at one guy and he's like, he's not open. Oh fuck. oh fuck, and then he's either running straight out of bounds or just doing something else stupid.
Rodgers, Manning, Mahomes.
You can see their little fucking heads just constantly like zigzagging.
Just the second their arms go up, you're like, they got him. Like yeah. I don't see the receiver on the screen because they're already out of the shot, but they got him.
Yeah.
Rarely do they step back and they miss, or it like gets picked. And you're like, oh, that's weird.
What's crazy with Manning, especially like the last couple years, because he obviously didn't have any like
strength.
Yeah, that thing was floating.
Oh.
Like that ball was just floating. Is how he would still hit fucking people in stride. By just throwing a fucking
duck.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be wild. It looked like a punt.
But like you could see him, like you'd always. I remember like the year before the last year, he would throw some of these like deeper passes, and I'm like, that's picked. Mm-hmm. And no, he would just hit a dude wide open in stride, and I'm like, he threw this ball probably as the receiver was like 5 yards away from the line of scrimmage, and it just. Boop. He just touched tips at the perfect spot.
It's you really know how to turn a phrase.
But I mean, again, that's Peyton Manning. That's,
sure.
That's the fucking apples and oranges.
But with that said,
you should still be able to do reads.
But he would, I guess, and this is not against Trubisky. This is against Pace. You traded up from 3 to 2, like. You had the third pick in the NFL draft, and you traded up several picks to move up one spot. That guy supposed to be Peyton Manning. The guy's supposed to be Aaron Rodgers. The guy's supposed to be Drew Brees. Luckily, he built a team that they probably don't need that, but he's not even close to that. And I guess maybe we'll transition this to their end of the season press conference. There's a few things that I found irritating about the press conference. There's one thing that I think the Bears, whether it be Nagy and Pace, that they are just absolute fucking cowards. They decided to have their press conference on like New Year's Eve, which I'm sure like is a super like just a great news dump day. Like probably not a lot of people are paying too close attention that day. But more importantly, after they had their news conference, they decided to fire their offensive coordinator, Mark Helfrich, their offensive line coach, Harry Hiestand, their tight end coach, Kevin Gilbride, and their assistant special teams coach, Brock Olivo. Like, what a fucking punk move. You have the entire media there to ask you questions. And I think even one of them asked, like, what's the status on Hiestand, the offensive coordinator, and they're like, well, we'll just they gave some fucking generic, we'll talk about that later bullshit response, and then an hour later released a statement that these 4 guys have been let go. Like, what a fucking coward move.
Yeah. I was trying to find the list, but I couldn't find it, of the people that the Bears could have had over Trubisky.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
it's
obviously Watson and Mahomes are the two.
But it's terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
The other, like, I think, I want to say Alvin Kamara was on there.
Yep. Actually, I guess because they took Cohen and Trubisky in the same. Yeah, you're right. So these are the 3 names. So in the same draft, they took Mitch Trubisky. They could have had Patrick Mahomes or Sean Watson without moving. The second round, they took Adam Shaheen, which George Kittle was taken in the 4th round of that draft. And then in the 4th round, they got Tariq Cohen, which of these 3 names, obviously the best one, but they could have had Alvin Kamara as well. They didn't have to move a spot for any of these guys.
So they could have had Watson, Kamara, and Kittle.
Or Mahomes.
Or Mahomes.
Yeah. I actually, by the way, think Watson's the better quarterback. But I think I'm going to go on a tangent. I get why teams were afraid of Mahomes. If you watch Mahomes college, even watch him now, what he doesn't transition into the NFL. He makes a lot of, he's very Favre-esque, and those type of habits generally don't work in the NFL, but it's worked for him. Like,
for now.
Yeah, exactly.
See, he's kind of, to take it back to what we were talking about earlier about Javi Baez, like his youthfulness is his best ally right now, but when he has to hone that shit down because he doesn't have that youthfulness anymore, how good is he going to transition? Where I do agree, I think you get more with Watson.
I think Watson is like the Tom Brady of the two.
Yeah.
And maybe Mahomes, I guess, would be the Manning. Not that they're both too both similar quarterbacks. So that's I guess that way of putting it, I think Watson's the winner. I think Watson's going to be the guy with the most rings at the end of this, but I think Mahomes has the better coach with him. I mean, I fucking hate Bill O'Brien. I think he's an awful head coach on the Texans.
You probably have a better team also around him.
Who? Mahomes?
Mahomes.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Even like Houston's defense is probably a little bit tougher.
And I like, what's his name? What's the fucking wide receiver?
Hopkins.
Hopkins.
Yeah, but like they still
But
like
that's it.
the Chiefs. Like their receivers are like track stars. I was annoyed during the
Fuller, who's just one. He's like just one play. He's gonna get like one catch. It's gonna be 76 yards for a touchdown.
All of them.
Aside from that,
fucking
nothing.
all of them.
Yeah.
And the one thing that annoyed me during the broadcast with the Bears and the Chiefs, and they're kind of trying to give Trubisky like excuses why like Mahomes is better, and they're talking about the talent at receiver. And I do think overall the Chiefs have better receivers, but Allen Robinson is the best receiver out of all those guys for sure. Like without Mahomes, I don't think Tyreek Hill is as good as we. I think he. Don't get me wrong, he is an athlete, but he gets put in good.
He gets put in good positions to succeed,
and he's wide open all the time, and he helps. It helps that, but he's not the number one guy. I guess I just think about this: when he gets wide open, Mahomes isn't missing him. If he was in Chicago, Trubisky would miss him.
all the time.
While like if
He's too fast to hit.
yeah, while like Robinson, like he doesn't have like the breakaway skills that Hill is a home run hitter. Robinson isn't. But Robinson, it does not matter who his quarterback is. He will be just fine. His numbers will be what they are because he's just consistent. He's going to get open. Even when he's not open, he's open. While Hill, it's just not the same. But again, he's still, when that ball is in his hand, he's a weapon. He's an athlete. When he's similar to Tariq Cohen. That ball is in his hands, or like Cordell Patterson. He's an elite Cordell Patterson. Patterson, when the ball's in his hands, like he'll make some moves. He actually should be the running back, by the way. But
that's another. I'm glad you said Patterson because I always forget that he's in the team because I feel like they don't use him enough.
And that's kind of been his whole career, though. Even like the Patriots, he's always been a special teamer that like no one's ever been able to kind of figure him out in offense.
But he's when he's out there and he's in a play, he's a playmaker.
Like he's the best. I mean, he should get like the ball handed off him like 20 times a game because one, he's like 6'4", like 245. Like he's a big fucking guy to bring down. He also can run like a 4.4.
Yeah, I don't understand why they like would rather just. I mean,
I just think he's a great decoy. Like take pressure off someone else.
Yeah, but like when you're like 3rd and 2, and Nagy calls a play, like a run play right down the middle with Cohen. I'm like, really? Like, that's who you're going to use when you got Patterson, who it might take 2 yards just to bring this fucker down. Like, that's why it's like a constant internal battle I have between Nagy and Trubisky. It's like every game I feel like the other one does just enough to piss me off. And
I guess I keep hoping maybe this is like the come to Jesus moment for Nagy. The first season, he was a hot shot head coach in the NFL, and maybe he was walking around like his shit don't stink, and he's been thoroughly. I guess to bring it back to like the press conference. So I listen a lot to sports talk radio here, 670 The Score specifically, and whatever. I guess this is something I need to. We're doing this too, like. Especially if like we had like a radio show every day, like you have to just have thoughts and opinions. It doesn't matter. It's part of the gig. Whatever the GM says or the coach says, it's your job to critique it. There's not a fucking word that Nagy or Pace said that I believe. Especially Pace. Pace just speaks in generalities, and the fact that he doubled down and said Trubisky is our starting quarterback next year, I don't believe for a fucking minute. The same guy who gave Mike Glennon like a $20 million signing bonus and drafted Mitch Trubisky with the second pick 2 months later. Like, he lies. He doesn't want anyone to know a fucking thing. He had like secret dinners with Trubisky, so no one knew that's who he wanted to go after. Like, he's
scum.
Yeah, he like operates like the Bears are the fucking CIA, and he's just what do they gain by saying like, oh, we're gonna bring competition in for Trubisky? I just don't understand what they gain.
Part of the game.
But when they sign Andy Dalton or Marcus Mariota, like actions speak louder than words. And when they sign one of those guys, it's evident they're bringing in competition for Mitchell Trubisky. If they draft a quarterback in the second round or the third round, it's evident that like, here's our backup plan. Like, if they're asking, are they gonna cut Kyle Long? I would love for Kyle Long to restructure his contract because when he's healthy, he is a force. I just don't know if that Kyle Long exists anymore. But what good does it say we're going to cut him? Whatever. If they cut him in 3 weeks, then they cut him in 3 weeks. But like, why are they going to answer any personnel questions right there at that press conference? Because it just doesn't do them any good. They're going to lie to you and tell you everything's all fucking rainbow and sunshine because it just doesn't serve any purpose to do anything otherwise.
So aside from maybe bringing in a free agent quarterback, what do you think? Is there anything else?
Their number one need is a tight end by far. That's by far the worst position on the field.
I mean, is there a free agent tight end, or do you roll the dice on someone in the draft if you even?
So Iowa's tight end looks pretty. I've been watching. I forget the guy's name I follow on Twitter, but you know what? He doesn't follow me, so I'm not going to promote his fucking Twitter account.
Yeah, fuck you.
But he's been scouting.
One day you will.
He keeps like posting clips of their tight end, and I forget his name, but I mean, he looks the part. But it sounds like Bears have like the 43rd and 50th pick in the draft, I believe. Like they have the Raiders' second round pick and their own second round pick. If anyone remembers, they traded this year and last year's first round picks for Khalil Mack, but they got the second round pick from the Raiders this year. So they have a couple high picks in the second round, nothing in the first round. Sounds like this guy might be like a late first rounder to early second rounder, so he might not fall to them. I don't know if there's any tight ends out there at the moment in the free agency. I do know like Trey Burton last year, beginning the season before he got hurt, was good. He was earning his contract, whether people want to say he did or not. He was definitely he was a crucial cog in the system. He obviously has not found that again, and I don't know if you can rely on him to. I doubt they cut him. I doubt they're going to give him an opportunity to get back into form. And I got ideally, listen, if they can get a young stud in the draft and Trey Burton can get back to last year, all of a sudden they have this dynamic tandem at tight end, and it does change things quickly.
Right. Do you bring in possibly an O lineman?
Yes, they need. So I
guess like how would you rank? Like who do you go first? You go
as far as like what their biggest needs are.
Yeah, you go
tight end, quarterback.
Okay.
Which. And I would like them to bring in a guy like Andy Dalton or Marcus. I think, never thought I would say this before, but I think Andy Dalton's probably the number one target. Yeah. I think Marcus Mariota is probably the number one target because I remember Pace trying to trade up to the second pick to get him when he first came to Chicago. Wasn't able to do that, and they stuck with Cutler for 1 year and then cut him the next. I think they need a left tackle and a right tackle. The right tackle wasn't as glaring this year. I still think like the tackles are serviceable. I think it is maybe a matter of play calling. And listen, if your quarterback can start, some of it is if the quarterback can start making some pre-snap reads, it makes your offensive line look a lot better if all of a sudden the quarterback understands what's coming at him. Aaron Rodgers has never had an amazing offensive line. But he's athletic enough to get out of situations, and he knows usually what's coming with the defense. Brady and Manning have usually had really good lines because they don't have the athleticism, but their pre-snap reads. How often have you seen Tom Brady or Peyton Manning or Drew Brees get a football in their hand and out within like a fucking second because they know exactly what's coming? It doesn't happen all the time, and obviously when you get in the playoffs, it gets tougher. Teams get better. It's not that it's not that clear. It's not that easy. For example, Tom Brady didn't look very good in the Super Bowl last year because the defense was bringing it. Yeah.
But they still, like, I remember when, I forget who it was that were going against New England, and they were putting, I forgot if they were, like, having the defenders play closer to the line or something. Anyway, like because they were like the clock on Brady from the point of him touching the ball and letting it go was so fucking quick. But again, it's like we're not going to expect Trubisky to make that jump. So,
no, I mean,
so you got to reinforce the offensive line.
I would bet money that if you took just Tom Brady at any point of his career and Mitch Trubisky right now, and you removed linemen, whatever play calls, you just remember like Kaepernick's tryout or whatever they had. Like you gotta have a tryout. That's what I'm trying to say. I guarantee you Trubisky outshines Tom Brady all day long.
Right.
I bet you he makes better throws, tighter spirals. I guess by better throws, I mean like those deep throws. I bet you he misses. I would bet money he misses less of those. But once things change when guys get jammed at the line and 300-pound men are chasing after you, and also you have to read the defense in front of you. Tom Brady knows where his guys are going to be. Trubisky doesn't appear to know where his guys are going to be, and some of it does fall on the receiver. I think that's a lot of issues he's had with Anthony Miller. I think Anthony Miller is a talent on the team, but like he has no chemistry with Trubisky.
I mean, you just look at the Patriots now. Tom Brady doesn't have, aside from Edelman, he has no chemistry with any other wide receiver. And there's been a bunch of times where they've seen like Brady just like I can't throw to this guy.
If you can't trust him, then it sucks.
I mean, what's his name? What's that other receiver that the Patriots have?
I mean, they just got Sanu, but it's not Sanu. Philip Dorsett.
Like he had a couple of good games with him, but he's shown frustrations with him where it's like he's not where he expects him to be.
I think that's where like the big miss with Gronk is. Even when Gronk was like clearly not the same player, he still takes up like you still have to account for him.
Right, and worst case scenario, you could always just throw him a jump ball because he's a fucking man child.
Speaking of the Super Bowl, that ball he threw down the field to him and just dropped it in a bucket, and I mean he scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl. Like they needed Gronk to win that game.
Yeah, but I really don't know where to go from.
I think the Bears need a tight end, quarterback. They might need two tight ends. Tight end, quarterback. At least one more offensive lineman, like a tackle, or honestly, probably a guard. I don't think Kyle Long. I don't know if you can rely on him. If he takes like
there's like back-to-back seasons now, right?
It's been like the past he's been hurt like 3 of the last 4 IR. Like he's
bad.
always been injury issues. It sucks. He's a hell of a talent, but he's hurt all the time. They probably then need another pass rusher on the other side of Mac. I think defensive line's shored up fine. Strong safety they're going to need, but that's kind of like the running back of the defense. You can like churn and burn those positions.
Well, and
probably need another defensive back too. Now that I think about it, I think Prince's contract is up.
If the offense gets better, then you don't need that hardcore of a defense either.
Sure, yeah. If the Bears are scoring 20, 25 points a game, they would have won 12 games again this year. Mac would have had 14 sacks, and then they would have Eddie Jackson would have had multiple interceptions because it's what had like when the offense has to play from, I guess the opposing team has to play from behind. That's when the defense really starts fucking you.
Right, because you have to obviously do more. Who's making it to the playoffs next? Cubs or the Bears?
I think the Bears actually.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Like I do want to say the Cubs, even if they keep the same team, but with the teams getting better, I don't think they have the pitching staff to just make it into the postseason. I want to say the Bears, but then
I just think inevitably the NFL, I just know the way it's structured. Their schedule is going to be easier next year.
It will, and I think I've seen the teams already. I don't think they have like the times or whatever.
I think they have the NFC South and the AFC South as like the teams.
They definitely have more opportunities to win next year than they did this year.
And I still think I definitely believe it's a championship defense for sure. Obviously, injuries change things a little bit. The Keem Hicks injury did hurt, but I think if the offense just shows like they weren't like middle of the road this year. They were like bottom 3. Like they were awful this year.
Yeah, and they technically almost fucked around and still made it into the postseason. So there's a couple bounces that the Bears could have very well only won 6 games this year, but they could have very well won 10 games this year too. Against the Chargers, the Raiders were 2 each. They should have won both those
times
games.
Against the Packers. The first game against the Packers, they had no business losing that, and it was even a game. The second game, it wasn't as much. It never felt like the first game. They lost 3-10.
Right. Yeah, that's such a fucking brutal game.
I think there's another one there that I can't think of the Eagles game.
Yeah.
But it just yeah, right there. We just found 11 wins for them, by the way. The NFL season, just like you can turn an NFL season around quicker than that. I guess baseball, I think the Cubs do have a better core around them, but like
we still don't know what moves they're gonna make.
and
you know,
I don't know what moves there to be made. That's the
Right.
issue. I don't know how do you patch those holes? Do you just coach better? Is that what they're leaning on?
Yeah,
I think some of that's with the Bears. Just better coaching might just change it.
It might. I mean, the Cubs really next season might be a test run if they do some moves where they get rid of some keynote players and bring in some prospects. It might be another 2015 season where, yeah, sure, they might fuck around and make it to the postseason, but they might not be as good.
I think they are still. I should have looked this up before we did this. I saw this a few weeks ago. They did like projections, like Vegas odds right now, and I think the Cubs are at like 88 wins. And I think it's the Brewers that are in second with 83 wins. I think the Cardinals, they don't even have an 80 wins right now. So I guess according to Vegas, right now they're going to win the NFC, the NL Central. However, Vegas, you got to take it with a grain of salt because usually people, they set the number. Usually the Cubs number is a good example of like any team that has a large fan base, the number is usually higher because they just bet more. Like they're overly optimistic.
And this is also prior to any moves. Like if they get rid of Bryant and Baez, let's say for example, and bring in nothing but like prospects, yeah we're probably not going to see much. Yeah. It might not be 80, or who knows? It might be 80 or something. Like that's if things click, and that's why it's like sometimes in baseball I feel like you could have a team that clicks and they'll catch lightning in a bottle way easier than like any other sport.
Sure.
And just fucking
the ball takes weird bounces sometimes.
Yeah, people get hot, and hitting is contagious. I was gonna say consistent, not on that team, but it is contagious.
But it helps if it is consistent.
Oh yeah, it does. So it's a toss-up. I don't know who's going to make it to the postseason. I mean, the Bears have been just a heartbreak for so many years, and I would love to say that the Cubs are. The only problem is the Cubs teams are getting better. A lot of teams are getting better. And the Brewers are a good team. I still think they're a little...
They got some changes. They got players that they got to play. They're not going to play, so they're probably going to fall back here.
The Cardinals are always
always. That's the thing. Like it doesn't matter what team they're shelling out there. Like you got to watch out for Matt Carpenter.
Yeah. If they don't make any moves, if the Cubs don't make any moves and they stick for at least they don't get rid of like any one of their cores, or if not, maybe just get rid of Brian or whatever. I still think they should be a playoff team. They still have a
playoff caliber team.
Yeah, whether they go or not.
So I guess this is what I think. Ultimately, I don't think either team will make the playoffs next year. Because I really do believe. And again, this is just the feeling in my gut. The way like this offseason seems, the fact that they haven't been making any moves in free agency and anything like that. It appears that the moves they're going to make are via trade. And I just think it's going to be kind of a soft reset. And the guys, like I said, it could be Schwarber and Bryant. I really do not think Chris Bryant will be a Chicago Cub next year. It hurts to say. I really would love for him to thrive and win MVPs and championships with the Cubs. But I think he will be traded for probably prospects. And they'll, like I said, a soft reset. They'll probably take a step back this year in order to jump forward in 2021 and 2022.
Yep. It tears me to even say that Chris Bryant might not be a Cub anymore, but you gotta do what you gotta do. Yeah. And I really don't think, I don't think he's been, not to go back to the Cubs, but I just don't think he's been producing. I think you trade him for some prospects, and that prospect might fuck around and do just enough, like you said, Derrick Rose, I never wanted the Bulls to get rid of, but unfortunately his body didn't hold up, and he's actually a pretty solid basketball player now, but just past his prime. Yeah, I mean, yeah. he wasn't the game-changing player that he was early in his career. He lost it. He got hurt, and now he's a solid piece that he would look really good on the Bulls right now, but he's not gonna
he's not the guy that's going to put you over for a championship.
And as far as the Bears go, I think next year we're really going to find out who it is, Trubisky or Nagy.
Yeah, I guess that's why I don't believe the Bears will make the playoffs either. Is I think even if they bring in a guy Dalton might be able to a guy like that might be able to get you 10, 11 wins.
But with a guy like that, if Nagy still calls these stupid ass fucking plays, then we're gonna know it's okay. So it's Nagy.
I mean, if Trubisky wakes up tomorrow and becomes like the number 2 pick he was supposed to be, anything's possible. But I wouldn't bet money on that.
Yeah, but anyway, I think we're gonna end it there. Like I said, we're gonna revisit the Cubs again closer to the season. Obviously, there's probably no point to revisit the Bears for a good minute. We could probably let that wound heal for a little bit longer.
Maybe around draft time. We'll discuss the draft.
Or if we hear some moves or something like that, we might revisit it. But we'll just probably focus on the Cubs, because baseball season will be here before you know it. There's really no other point of talking about any other Chicago sport. I mean, we could probably talk about like a White Sox one maybe one day. And we're not White Sox fans, so we don't follow them as closely as we follow the Cubs.
I mean, the most depressing team in all of Chicago is the Bulls. Even they didn't match they had bottom of the cellar fucking expectations, and they're not even meeting those expectations. Their fucking coach is an idiot.
Yeah, that's that's hard to watch, and the Blackhawks are just there to play right now. They're not the worst, but they're not the best either, or maybe not even middle. But anyways, hope you enjoyed this episode.
And Brad, remember to go fuck yourself.
Yeah, leave a like. If after you do that, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe.
You can do it first, after, it doesn't matter.
And we'll see you later.
Toodles.